Fallout is known for its various creepy secrets, mysteries, and encounters throughout the games, but unlike those things, Fallout also has various creepypasta stories that not many fans know about, which I have compiled into an iceberg format for you to listen to while you sleep, work, study, or play Fallout games. Because with Season 2 of the Fallout TV show ending soon, and with a possible Fallout 3 and New Vegas remaster also coming out soon, right now is the perfect time to look back into some of Fallout's most terrifying creepypastas that not many fans know. So make sure you got your Pip-Boys, stim packs, and Radaway ready, as you're probably gonna need them for some of these stories. But before we can get into the video, make sure to subscribe if you love Fallout or creepypastas, and let's get into it. But before we do get into the creepypastas, I would like to thank today's sponsor, TEMU, for sponsoring this video, as they have a new promotion where all TEMU users can get $20 off of any purchase, just by using the code KCP3975 in the search bar of the app. If you scan the QR code on screen right now to download TEMU, and then use the code on screen right now, which is KCP3975 in the search bar of the app, not the checkout screen, you will be given $20 off of any purchase, except that this time it's for all users, not only new ones. Which means if you are a new user, there is no threshold for this deal, which means if you buy an item that is $20.01, you will only need to pay 1 cent. But for users who have already used TEMU, the application of the $20 discount varies from person to person according to your purchase history. But this isn't all. As for this special promotion, TEMU has arranged a giveaway for this fully customizable controller, where if you like and subscribe, and also leave a positive comment on this video, you may receive this controller for free. So even if you don't win the promotion, you are still able to get $20 off if you use the code on screen in the search bar of TEMU. But with all of this out of the way, let's finally get into the creepypastas. Lone Wolf Radio is one of the most popular and oldest Fallout creepypastas on this list, as it has existed since 2014 and has circulated online due to it being one of the first Fallout creepypastas ever made. So to start this video off strong, I think this is a good pick to read off first in order to set the vibe for the rest of the video, so let's finally get into it. A few days ago, I decided to play Fallout New Vegas again after about a year. My saved game had a character at level 43, at a very strange location. I was at a part of the map called Lone Wolf Radio. It was a derelict trailer full of various audio equipment for what I assumed sending out some sort of pirate radio signal. The area didn't seem all too interesting at first, mostly because there was no valuable loot besides a Sunset Sarsaparilla Star Cap and a copy of the Wasteland Survival Guide. What piqued my interest about the trailer was the graffiti that covered the inside of the trailer. On the outside, written in some kind of spray paint, it said "Keep Out." I'm guessing this message was written by an outsider and not by the person whom lived in the trailer, who I will call the Lone Wolf. The message scrawled on the inside was far more disconcerting. It read, "Everyone is gone, I am alone," and it was written in blood. I decided to look deeper into the matter of this trailer and got some answers about this very out of place location compared to the rest of the game. After rigorous investigation, I managed to track down a person online who could answer my questions. He claimed to be a former employee at Obsidian Studios. Although I found this claim dubious at best, I decided to hear him out as he was the best lead I had at this point. He told me that the location was going to tie into a major quest line. You would tune into the radio at around 2 AM to hear the Lone Wolf spout incomprehensible gibberish and proceed to murder a random person. This process would intensify if you ignored the broadcast to the point where he would murder a child. According to the former employee, he went by Thomas. They cut the plotline for many reasons, the most obvious being that a quest in which a child is murdered is far too graphic for a game with a tone like Fallout New Vegas. Me and Thomas had a long conversation about the possibility of accessing the game data. Here is our email messages. Me: how far along was the quest before it was cut? Thomas: we are almost finished, but right before the game was ready, we got a message from upstairs that they wanted the entire questline cut from the game for undisclosed reasons. Me. So I'm wondering, since the questline was cut from the game late in development, do you think there's any way to get into it or something? Thomas. I'm pretty sure it would be on there when we cut material from the game. We often let the data in the files rather than completely delete it. Me. So you're saying the files are there? Thomas. No, most of them are gone. You'll probably only find a couple of the files on the disk. Me. Do you know of any way I could get the rest of the files? Thomas. Unless you worked there at Obsidian, you're not going to find anything. Me. Thanks for the help, Thomas. I'm gonna keep my eyes open for anything about this. Thomas. Alright. Good luck and take it easy. After about 2 weeks of hunting with no results, I was about ready to give up on the matter when I got an anonymous email stating it had what I was looking for. I heard you were looking for the files to the Lone Wolf quest. I attached them here. Don't reply back. I found it a little disconcerting that I'd get the files in such a manner, but I was amazed to actually get them. I packed them into an ESP file and got to work. I reloaded my save and waited until 2 AM for the radio signal. Sure enough, I picked up the radio frequency, but what I heard on the broadcast disturbed me deeply. I'll write down what I heard. All alone. I am the last true person alive. All around me the skies weep and the earth howls for blood. The very pits of the great below open for another offering. I hope this meager soul pleases you. All of a sudden, I heard a voice chime in, halting his belligerent rambling. Someone help me, I'm not supposed to be here. I only came here for the audition, I don't want to die. I felt very confused about this line of dialogue. For one, it didn't sound like the regular voice actors in Fallout New Vegas, it almost just sounded like a regular person. For another, the line didn't seem to match what was being said at all. I don't know what audition he's referring to. I listened to the broadcast some more. You pathetic creature, you do not deserve to stand before the mother of the depths. Mother, take this flesh and enjoy its blood. No, please, don't, I'm begging you, no! What I heard made me feel very sick. It sounded like a knife was being worked into the man's torso, and the scream he let out was horrifying. This sounded almost like a real murder. After a minute, I traveled to Lone Wolf Radio to continue the quest, but the first thing I noticed about the area was there was no music. I chalked it up to being the .wav file being missing from the folder. The other thing I noticed was the trailer had more graffiti on it. The messages looked fresher than the previous 2 pieces, and like the message on the inside, it was written in blood. They read, "Mother of the Depths, take this flesh." And the other one appeared to just be tally marks, like he was keeping track of his kills. I walked into the trailer when something on the screen flashed with a quick sound of static. The picture flashed too quickly for me to see, but it was very uncomfortable. Inside the trailer, I saw the corpse of the man killed with a knife stuck in his body, and several of his fingers missing, looking like they were chewed off. He didn't look like your standard Fallout character. He appeared to have a custom model with a hairstyle that isn't available in-game. It looks like a shaggy suave hairstyle, but less flattened. The face model also appeared more detailed than normal. The radio equipment was shut off as well. I noticed far more blood than what was normally there, and it had somewhat a finer texture about it compared to the normal blood in Fallout New Vegas. I turned around to search the body when the screen flashed again, and I heard that static sound once more. I decided I'm going to take a look in the folder and see if I can find the reason behind the flashing. When I opened the folder, I noticed a file that was simply labeled Picture. When I clicked on it, I saw what made me sick to my stomach. It was a person with a kitchen knife in their torso and several of their fingers gnawed to the bone. He appeared to be in some abandoned house that was rotting and falling apart. After a moment, I noticed something. The person in this photo looks just like the character that was murdered by the Lone Wolf. I think I'm gonna look into this tomorrow, but now I'm not gonna touch this again until I figure out what's going on. The next day, I decided to contact Thomas again to see if he knew anything about this gruesome picture, and this is what he said. Me. Hey, Thomas, I managed to get my hands on the files for that Lone Wolf quest, and what I saw really freaked me out. Thomas. What was it? Me. There was a picture of a person who had been murdered, and he looked like the model of the character the lone wolf kills. Thomas: no, that can't be right. I didn't put anything like that in the quest. Me: this makes me feel really uneasy, man. I don't get what's going on here. Thomas: was there anything else there? Me: other than the disturbing radio message, I didn't see anything else. Thomas: radio message? We never finished the voice acting. I felt very nauseous. If Thomas and his team didn't finish the voice acting, then what is going on here? I tried to contact the person who sent me the message, but the email address had been deleted. Although I don't feel comfortable about playing this quest, I want to figure out what's going on. So I start up Fallout New Vegas and notice there is something amiss. There's no music playing on the title screen now. I went to load my save, but it was missing. Replacing the file now is a save for a level 1 character at Lone Wolf Radio. When I loaded it, I noticed this character had no clothes on. My Pip-Boy was missing, there was now a fence around the trailer so I couldn't leave the area. Without any options, I decided to step into the trailer. When I did, the screen flashed with what I assumed was the disgusting picture and the same static sound appeared, but it was longer than last time. It was pitch black now, except for the radio equipment. I couldn't move from my spot for some reason. Just as I was ready to shut off the game, a person walked up to me and started dialogue. It was the lone wolf himself. He spoke to my character and talked about the mother of the depths like last time, but this time he asked for my help and asked me to help him in making an offering to the mother of the depths. I didn't like where this was going, but I accepted anyways just to see where the quest was going. He leaves for a second and comes back with a child. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Like the previous person, this model is not like any character in Fallout New Vegas, and he had far more detailed character models. I wanted to shut the game off now, but the escape button wasn't working, and neither was my Alt-Tab or Control-Alt-Delete buttons. The lone wolf spoke in his words of offering and proceeded to raise a sledgehammer. The child model was crying and spoke, "Please, mister, I'm scared, I want to go home." This dialogue was eerily realistic, and I remembered my previous experience with this. I feel very tense now, and just as he's about to hit the child with the sledgehammer, the screen flashes and the game crashes. I have a cold beat of sweat running down now as I open the file. I see a new file labeled picture, just like the last one. With great hesitation, I open the file. What I see starts to make me tear up, and I yelped. It was a photo of a child with his head caved in and blood drenched everywhere. After that, I deleted the Lone Wolf ESP and uninstalled my copy of Fallout New Vegas. I can't play it anymore after that. I haven't heard anything from Thomas, or the person that sent me the file, but then again, I don't think I want to hear anything about it after going through that.
Fallout 3 Number Station is, again, one of the most popular Fallout creepypastas ever made, and is actually more popular than the previous story, as this story released all the way back in 2012, and has garnered an almost cult-like following around it because of how the story portrays itself, as it almost feels like a true urban legend. But anyways, let's read the story. Fallout 3 contains several in-game radio stations. The most diverse and important station is Galaxy News Radio. Many players of the evil persuasion know that you can kill Three Dog and he will be replaced by the technician Margaret. She's not a charismatic person and has very little to say, seeming to not enjoy her new announcing duties. She also never appears in person and therefore cannot be killed. Once Three Dog is dead, you're stuck with Margaret. What most players do not know is under certain circumstances, GNR will become a number station. A number station is a station that broadcasts an unusual coded message. Many of these exist in real life, and some hypothesize that they are nuclear retaliation control network. Simply check Wikipedia for more information about these odd broadcasts as they relate to the real world. But for now, back to Fallout 3. No one is really sure which actions are needed to hear the number station in Fallout 3. It appeared that you must kill Three Dog because no one is reported hearing the number station with him still alive. It also appears that you have to skip over the quest Galaxy News Radio, where you help boost the signal so the station can be broadcast further than just the immediate DC area. This is easy enough to do with either a speech check or simply using the Fallout Wiki to look up where to go next and advance the main plot. Finally, you definitely have to destroy Raven Rock. This is the actual trigger to turn GNR into a number station, and it will remain such for the rest of the game. However, the vast majority of the players who perform these 3 actions still continue hearing the standard GNR broadcast, so there must be several more requirements the community has yet to isolate. If you're lucky enough to have hit upon the right set of circumstances, just after destroying Raven Rock, you will get a message: radio signal lost, and a few seconds later, radio signal found. You cannot, however, actually listen to GNR just yet because you didn't boost the signal and are out of range of the broadcast at the exit of Raven Rock. Luckily though, Raven Rock is situated in the mountains and is right near one of the few places outside DC that you can get high enough to catch the signal. So far, the confirmed location to hear the GNR number signal are 1. Within the immediate DC area, obviously. This is true for the regular GNR throughout the game. 2. At the top of the Ferris wheel at Point Lookout. 3. On the tops of some of the SATCOM arrays you can climb in the northwestern map area. 4. On the roof of Tenpenny Tower, though this may be within normal broadcast range anyway. Feel free to playtest and get back to me on this one. 5. On the highest point of the broken bridge around Arfu. Again, maybe within broadcast range anyway. And 6. On some of the highest points of the mountaintops in the area near Raven Rock. This is obviously your easiest chance to first listen to the number station. When you tune in, you will hear an old familiar voice, 3Dog, despite the fact that you killed him earlier. However, you will quickly notice that he doesn't seem to be in character, so I guess it's not technically 3Dog, but just the voice actor, Eric Dollums. He reads a series of numbers in a monotone, depressed-sounding voice. He always recites a single list of digits between 9 and 12 characters long. For example, 9, 3, 7, 9, 1, 7, 2, 0, 3, 4. He never uses a multi-digit number like 11 or 40. These numbers are followed by widely varying lengths of Morse code. This is then followed by the song, I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. All other music tracks seem to be inactive on this station. The Morse code was the easiest part of the mystery to crack, as the code is widely available and many people actually know it by heart. We quickly had a list of a great number of messages in English. Some sounded completely mundane and even comical, such as, wash the car today, maybe Chinese for dinner. Or, have you watched my YouTube video yet? I uploaded myself kicking bums in the nuts. You may be saying, but wait, YouTube doesn't exist in the Fallout universe. And you'd be right. As far as we could tell, all of the messages sounded like they were based in our reality, somewhere near present day. Some of the messages, however, are quite sinister, such as, the Queen has died today, the world mourns, as on days like these we are all Brits. Or, I can't believe they've actually done it. Not long left. The noise, I can't take the noise anymore. I have a pistol in the attic. Just recently, a player on the wiki forums noticed a message that brought to light the meaning of all the messages. He was reading a thread that collected all known messages, transposed from Morse to English, and saw the line 1, 2, 0, 5, 5, 2, 8, 2, 0, 1, 0. What are you talking about? You'll be missed. He realized this was a reference to the recent death of Gary Coleman, and quickly realized the numbers were the time and date of his death. He immediately scanned through the messages to try and find more examples of this apparent future telling by a game that's more than a year old. The next message he read shocked him and pushed him to enlist the aid of others to decipher the codes. The message was 9, 4, 5, 4, 2, 0, 2, 0, 1, 0. Accident in the Gulf. Several dead. Oil spill apparently averted. He realized this was the BP explosion in the erroneous Day 1 assessment that the well was not leaking. From this point on, all numbers will be transcribed as times and dates. All times were given in-game in military format and remain so in this document. Numerous members of the Fallout Wiki messages board began looking over the messages to see what else we could learn. We quickly found that most of the dates were after the game had been released, yet oddly some were from the past. 2215, April 15th, 1865. He's dead, and blame will probably be placed on that actor, Booth. Johnson better not cheat me out of the payment. This shed new doubt on the official version of the Lincoln assassination. As the community quickly started piling up interpretations of the messages, the mods of the site summarily banned everyone who had posted in or even read the thread. All reference to the number station was removed from the Fallout wiki, and filtering software was put in place to prevent reposting of any relevant information. A few people, however, are trading emails and slowly finishing the translation of the remaining messages and putting dates to the existing ones. The Queen has died today. The world mourns as on days like these, we are all Brits. 4:02, March 19th, 2014. Have you watched my video yet? I uploaded myself kicking bums in the nuts. 24/16, December 24th, 2012. I can't believe Britney's actually won an Oscar. 21:33, February 27th, 2023. I can't believe they've actually done it. Not long left. They were warned, but they just had to keep pushing the boundaries of science. The noise, I can't take the noise anymore. And the light, dear God. The universe is slowly unraveling around us. I'm not going to wait for death. I have a pistol in the attic. This is actually the only message not preceded by a string of numbers. It may be worth noting that the latest date on any of the messages is 1/27, July 6, 2027.
New Vegas Haunted Hotel is again another extremely old creepypasta, made all the way back in 2013. But unlike the previous two stories, this one was not very popular, and seemingly flew under the radar when it came to Fallout creepypastas. The story may not be the quote-unquote best, but I feel it does deserve some appreciation, so here it is. Throughout a playthrough of New Vegas, how many times does the player happen upon the skeleton of some long-dead human? Possibly a victim of the nuclear holocaust that destroyed America, or some poor scavenger who got in over their head. We pass these remains without a second thought, but if we look closely, we can glean some very interesting and, in some cases, disturbing stories behind these deaths. I'm not talking about seeing a skeleton in a den full of night stalkers, or lying in a pool of waste. In my travels, I've stumbled across a couple of strange occurrences. The environment around some of these stray skeletons begged investigation. I don't claim to know if these are 100% accurate, but these skeletons seem to tell me stories. Prim as a town is a rather unassuming place with unassuming people. The only real noticeable inhabitants are the cowardly Deputy Beagle, Johnson Nash, the local Mojave Express supervisor, his wife Ruby, who makes casserole with rad scorpion venom, and Prim Slim, who runs the Vicky and Vance casino. There's something else there, something slightly off though. Well, some things. I found them when I was purging the town of the escaped convicts from the NCRCF. The scum dropped like flies as I picked them off one by one in the shadows. I'll spare you the details, but horrifying would be the word used to describe the way I dispatched them. But it's not my fault that I go into a killing frenzy every time I hear a gun, whether the shot or some indication of it being drawn, brandished, or cocked. After the red mist had lifted, I had to make my way back through the place because I don't loot in the middle of a fight, and I wanted the caps. Going room to room, I was intrigued by the number of salvageable items lying around. Why the hell did no one pick up all these old guns, caps, and little valuables? Why were the locks on these containers intact when by all accounts this town had been inhabited for years? Why did the citizens use this place to gather and hold meetings? Or even use some of the less damaged rooms as housing, or at the very least, a private spot to go off for a good fuck? Oh boy. As I approached one room on one of the upper floors, I think one of the answers came to me. Opening the door, I came upon what was almost a pretty typical sight. An old bed sat right in front of me, with a gun cabinet next to it. The usual decay had set in on everything. The nearby bathroom was holding an unopened first aid box. There was a desk with a long overturned lamp sitting atop it. Lying in front of the desk, however, was a skeleton, the cadaver sprawled out beside an overturned chair. Now, normally when I find skeletons, they're in pieces, but this one seemed to hold together pretty well. Bones were still in sockets and all of that. It was odd, but I was used to seeing the decrepit remains of people in ruins like these. A wastelander's got no business shedding tears for the dead when everything around them yearns to murder them, you know? But this room was a bit cold, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I felt watched, but I passed the body and scavenged what I could, dismissing it as nothing. On my way out though, my attention shifted to something shiny. In front of the body was a holodisc, which I snagged and was about to load into my Pip-Boy to give it a read. Upon touching it, however, I was assaulted by a vision of some kind. Everything blurred in front of me, as what could only be the man whose body was now on the desk leaned forward, sobbing. Another man opened the door, entering. "I see you brought the money, Mr. Peterson," said the stranger. "Yes, $500,000, just as you asked. It's all I have." The man held out the briefcase. "I didn't involve the cops at all." Good, said the man. "I'll send her in. Just put your head down on the desk and count to 10. Clearly skeptical, but not about to disobey this man that had an obvious hold over him, the man laid his head on the desk. With a single motion, the man with the pace pinned his target's head to the desk and buried a knife between his vertebrae. Classic assassination move. Sever the spinal cord, and you paralyze them while they bleed out. A cruel move, but effective. As the man bled out, he could do nothing but slump to the side and thud against the floor while his killer yanked out the knife and casually left. Things returned to normal, and even I shuddered. I'd never believed in this kind of stuff before, and I wrote it off as some side effect of the psycho I had to take to give me a boost when I cleaved those two guys in half with one swing. Not a normal side effect, but strange shit happens with a 200-year-old chems, you know? Not a bad trade-off, really. I don't normally take psycho, I'm not a druggie. Sarsaparillo's my vice. Anyway, plugging in the disc, a message came up on my Pip-Boy. "Mr. Peterson, if you want to see your wife alive again, bring the cash in small unmarked bills to the Bison Steve on Tuesday." Poor sap, I thought to myself. Must have been a lot of hate between those two to warrant this kind of kill. Take his wife, his money, and his life. You never give a kidnapper what they want, I thought. You lure them in and you end them. Some unseen presence seemed to argue. No idea how I could tell since there was nothing there, but it felt like something was nodding approval. Approval of what? Well, I have no clue. Anyway, I spared no tears and paid no mind, heading back into the hall to resume looting everything that wasn't nailed down. The chill went away, seemingly confined to that room. I paid it no mind and finally hit a locked door, which I picked immediately. Inside was a strange scene. A queen-size bed was right in front of the door, a desk to the right, and on the desk was a distinctly familiar briefcase. Mr. Peterson. I didn't remember his name out of the sentiment, it was just a weird name, alright? Anyway, the room was ransacked, like there had been a fight or something. Looked like this was the room where the assailant had been keeping the sap's wife. The familiar chill came back with the usual tingle that set me a little on edge. Seeing as how they'd clearly not made it out of the hotel, the money had to still be in it. Old world currency is still worth caps, so I tried to open it. Soon as my hand touched the damn thing, another vision hit me with a slight wave of nausea. Same as before, everything went blurry and blurred figures formed. Could barely make them out, but the woman and the killer sounded much younger than Peterson. I got the cash and the old man's dead. Now I can take off for Reno and start over. You can get the inheritance and come on down after I've got our little place bought and set up. He spoke as he entered the room. The woman had been lying down on the bed and got up to share what must have been a hell of a kiss with the way they lingered and moaned. Fucking, she'd been in on it the whole time. "Yeah, baby, let's celebrate," she spoke, the insinuation and inflection taking the age-old pattern of seduction. They climbed in the bed with him on top of her. "I could see big things in our future, babe. You and me, we're gonna live in the lap of luxury." "Yeah, big things in our future," she smirked. Thing is, her knee shot up and caught whoever the fuck he is right on the crotch, then buried a knife in his gut, twisting it and attempting to do as much damage as possible with the way her wrist and hand were shaking and shifting. More you move a blade while it's in someone, the more damage it does to the insides. There's much more room for those big things with just one of us. Thanks for the help, sugar, but I can handle it from here. And holy fuck did that piss off her ex-lover, because even as he bled out, he pinned her to the bed, grabbing her by the throat and strangling her even as she tried to kick him in the crotch again. The knife shat out and sunk into his groin, getting a groan out of even me. The guy was undeterred though. Adrenaline must have been going through him to not drop a rock from that. With a sickening pop, he snapped her neck and immediately tried to get to the door for help, but when he tried to open it, it wouldn't budge. Oh, the handle could be turned, but the damn door just wouldn't move an inch. He was trapped. At the time, I felt the presence from the other room in this vision, tainted with malice but still invisible. Panicked, the twice murderer made for the bathroom, and I guess he was a hardcore partier, because not a single stim pack but plenty of psycho and med-X. He climbed into the tub and frantically tried to shoot up with whatever he could, probably in some kind of misguided attempt to keep from bleeding out, but he could have just been trying to dull the pain of his passing. Either way, the needles wouldn't even pierce his skin. It was like the presence was keeping him from finding any relief. He died in that tub, and was evidenced by the fact his skeleton sat in that very tub when the vision cleared. Med-X and Psycho lying all around him, and the woman's skeleton lying on the bed still. I felt 3 presences now. 2 in some kind of pain, maybe, and the 3rd getting some sweet satisfaction. No idea, just trying to make sense of the sensations I was getting. Not that those sensations stopped me from taking every piece of salvage, including those chems, and moseying right on back out of there to resume looting these corpses. What can I say? Facing death in the wasteland tends to harden you against incomparable threats, or it kills you and they don't need it anymore. After telling this story to a couple of people, I ran into someone who told me what I was experiencing was some kind of psychic phenomenon, but I don't buy into that old world bullshit about mediums and crystals and hexes. That wasn't the only time I ever felt presences like that, but I can tell you it never happened before getting shot in the head, and it's never affected me past fucking with my perceptions, so it's not like whatever this is. Whether it's ghosts or just hallucinations or whatever, bother me. Might be because I don't fuck with them past what I have to do in order to gather some caps.
The first story of Layer 2 is the Vulpes ending. These stories will start to become more unhinged, less known, and overall more unique compared to the stories seen in Layer 1. Whether that be for better or worse, but unlike the previous stories, this one is actually fairly new. It was only posted on Reddit about 9 months ago, which is why the story is a good start to this layer. But anyways, let's finally get into it. I've sunk over 800 hours into Fallout New Vegas. I thought I'd done everything. Every quest, every ending, every glitch. But something happened during a recent Legion run that I've never seen before. Something I've tried to replicate a dozen times since, and failed. I've always played an older version of New Vegas on my Xbox 360. It still runs like a champ, so I never felt the need to upgrade. I was attempting a perfect Legion run, trying to complete every single Legion quest in the shortest amount of time without help from any other faction. It was a playthrough I had done a million times before. But this time, I did a few things differently. At one point, I was breezing through Caesar's dialogue, like always. Then something strange happened. Just before clicking through a line, I caught a flash of something. A unique speech check, there and gone in an instant. I'm not exactly sure what triggered it, but a new quest popped up immediately after passing the check. No name. Just the quest notification sound and a single objective. Speak to Vulpes. I tried talking to Caesar again, but nothing happened. No text, no voice. He just stared at me, blank and still. That's when I realized I had completely skipped over Nipton in this run. I'd gone straight to Cottonwood Cove. I left Caesar's tent curious, even excited to see what this hidden objective might lead to. But as I stepped out, the feeling changed. Every Legionnaire in the fort just watched me. No chatter, no patrols, no movement. It felt like I had broken some invisible rule. Whenever I turned around, they were still staring, completely motionless. I opened up my Pip-Boy to fast travel, but a message popped up. You cannot fast travel when enemies are nearby. Except there weren't any enemies, nothing hostile in sight. Still, I had no choice. I had to walk. The Mojave was barren. The entire journey I didn't encounter a single NPC, friendly or hostile. Not a Radroach, not a single Brahmin caravan. It felt like the game world was holding its breath. When I finally arrived at Nipton, that feeling only got worse. The smoke from the burning tire piles hung thick in the sky, but the usual chaos was gone. No powder gangers, no crows, no screams, The crucifixes outside the town hall were still there, but empty. Just swaying ropes and rusted nails. Oliver Swanwick, the powder ganger who always sprints up to you? Nowhere to be found. I followed the quest marker closer and there he was. Vulpes, standing alone on the steps of the burned town hall. No recruits, no dogs, just him staring at nothing. He slowly walked toward me and I was caught off guard. Instead of engaging in the usual scripted dialogue, he just kept walking. Right past me. I followed him. He walked to the edge of town and finally stopped. I pressed the button to speak with him. The camera zoomed in, just like any normal conversation, but there were no words. Just an empty text box. The screen froze, then it went black. And the ending slides began to play. But I was only halfway through the game. I hadn't even visited the strip, no Hoover Dam, no in-game factions. The first slide showed Novak burning. I hadn't even discovered Novak in this save. Next, Sloan, filled with corpses. Miners stacked in piles like garbage, blood smeared on the rocks. Then Boone, crucified outside a Legion camp. His mouth was sewn shut. I'd never even recruited him. Slide after slide, towns I had never visited, companions I had never met, all destroyed. Faction leaders, McNamara, House, the Khans, all brutally executed. No narration, no music, just silence. And every few seconds a faint static pop as the slide changed. Then the final image hit. It didn't fade like the others. It flashed on screen, just long enough to make me flinch. It was Vulpes. Behind him, smeared across a stone wall in what looked like blood. We are Legion. Then the game crashed. When I came to, my hands were shaking. I managed to snap a pic of the first two slides and the last one. The rest were too fast, or too brutal. I tried booting the game back up, and the save was corrupted. Gone. I spent days trying to replicate the glitch, killing Ambassador Crocker early, using the platinum chip before delivering it, skipping Nipton, letting Vulpes live. Nothing worked. That hidden speech check in Caesar's dialogue never appeared again. I still don't know what I triggered. Maybe someone else out there does, but every day I check, and I come up empty-handed.
The Puppet Man is Fallout 76's only quote-unquote decent creepypasta, and is the only one featured in this video for that reason, as the rest of Fallout 76's creepypastas are just, well, troll pastas, and have no genuine effort put into them. But with that being said, let's take a look into 76's only, I guess, okay, good creepypasta. I don't know. Bethesda, you better get to the bottom of this before this becomes a threat that spreads to other player bases still trying to play Fallout 76. Last night I chose to go into the game to catch up for lost time, since I haven't played Fallout 76 since 2018. I'm aware of the good upcoming DLCs and the bad Fallout First controversy that has happened to it since then, and I just wanted to see if I can get some new friends or experiences from it. It took me a while to set it all up and sign in, but once I did, I saw something that worried me. I was over encumbered with damaged power armor, and I remember I wanted to fix it, but never found a workstation or materials to do so. But with it, I can't walk or fast travel to reach nearby players, so I was forced to equip broken T60 power armor and drop the T50 ones, and while I was finally able to walk and run, this did mean once this protection breaks, I'll be very vulnerable. Speaking of vulnerability, I looked into my inventory on my Pip-Boy and saw all I had were a few grenades, 2 weak guns with limited ammo, and a knife, so this means I have to make every shot count. However, I knew of a place I could possibly solve this. Around at the top of the map was a place called the Converted Munitions Factory, where a player could take over the hub and power up a generator to gather loads of ammo of any particular kind they were seeking. The problem wasn't the bottle cap cost, it was the unclaimed workshop space, meaning I couldn't simply teleport to it. I had to spawn to an adjacent location to get anywhere close to it, and I decided to pick the nearby Bailey family cabin, but when I did, I immediately realized what I got myself into heading there. Bailey Family Cabin is a place where the Scorched, basically smart armed zombies, would spawn to attack players. This may seem like a cakewalk, but in my state, I wasn't ready since I'm a veteran shaking off my dust, especially without strong ammo or armor to handle their gunshots. The only thing I could do was run with them right on my tail. I headed in the direction I figured would be the factory, at least so the Scorched would be dissuaded to keep following me. It was a long chase, getting shot in the back several times, and I tried to dodge them by swerving around nearby trees. I ran into a bush and finally saw no Scorched behind me, but checking my map, my eyes widened when I realized I went the wrong way. Instead of going west to the factory, I went to the far north. No wonder all I saw far away wasn't the corroded gate, but rather a rock face on the cliffside. My fusion core for the power armor suit wouldn't be able to make it all the way back, so I decided to simply explore the landscape around before I would log off to avoid having to let go of my modular armor as well. It was nighttime, both in the game and in real life, with the light of my television being the only bright thing in my room. But at least the soothing soundtracks in-game perturbed me from having that uneasy feeling. I headed to this cliffside and noticed an area around it clear of any rock blockades, and while this would normally be protected by an invisible barrier and pop up saying you can't go that way, this time there wasn't. Curious and having no real way to go back without paying more caps again, I decided to follow the dirt path. Could this lead me to another unpatched secret Bethesda left in the game, like the developer room? I don't know. I just hoped heading this way wouldn't result in my account getting banned. After a long walk, I saw on the map I was almost off the edge of it, like I was going to fall off the side of the world and into a bottomless pit below. I also noticed the soundtrack wasn't playing anymore, so I got my uneasiness heightened by that. I wasn't expecting to find anything here other than glitches. At the end of the path was a blue wall meant to mimic the sky or the far landscape. I figured this would be another barrier, but instead was intangible. Heading through though, I ended up at the converted munitions factory? But how could this be? I tried pulling up my Pip-Boy when I switched over to the map and all I got was a blank screen. Surrounding the factory was not grass or trees, just blackness, with what looked to be a dirt bridge leading to the front door of the facility. I tried to turn around to go back, but now the wall behind me was just solid. Not even shooting at it did anything. I cursed myself for getting stuck in what seems to be a glitch, so I decided to head to the factory to see if it still functions like another workspace. I went down the path, opened the door, and saw it had the same interiors as the previous place. There were desks, skeletons, even the ammo generator. And then I saw the red workspace that I had to spend some caps to claim. But when I interacted with it, a pop-up appeared stating I couldn't take over this place without it being contested by another player. I soon heard footsteps from the higher floors of the building. This got me on edge, so I pulled out my giant knife to see if I could sneak up on who's here with me. I creeped up the stairs and crouched down, taking it slow since my power armor is a bit loud. However, when I made it to the second floor, I found no one. I ran around to see if anyone was around hiding, ignoring my super noisy steps, but nothing. Then I saw another door, and I remembered this one can take me to the roof of the factory. Heading up there, I'm back to seeing an empty landscape. There's no lights in this world, yet the factory is still bright, like if the moon was shining its glow on it. I couldn't find anyone above, but I saw a small room above that had what I was looking for, ammo crates. I quickly ran to it and saw it had the bullet kind I was looking for, but when I was done inspecting it, my character suddenly turned its head around to show an NPC? But this is Fallout 76 without Wastelanders yet. Creepier still was that it had no eyes. It had eyelids, but there were holes where the eyeballs should be. It suddenly grabbed my character up like the Deathclaw would, despite the fact its lanky frame, and it said in a distorted voice, "Looking for something?" It soon threw me into the nearby wall, but instead of simply hitting it and landing back on the floor, I somehow phased through it, landing back on the roof of the factory outside of the ammo room. My character got up and this very mysterious person phased through the wall as well with a twisted smirk on his face. I got a better look at him. He had very light brown hair with a vault jumpsuit on that was covered in blood. While I couldn't see the number from the front, his hairstyle and what he had in his hand made me realize who he was. Worn on his hand like a glove was a Vault Boy puppet that was just as bloody as he was, and now I could tell who he was with his matching crooked style. He was the Puppet Man, the crazed survivor of Vault 77, the one after 76. Fitting. But that was besides the point. Despite the fact I knew the TV couldn't hear me, I soon yelled, "What are you?" through my headphones. He then said, "I am the Puppet Man." I could tell who he really was now. He's a hacker. How else could he have broken the barriers Bethesda placed and made a copy of the munitions factory in the world cut off from the main map? He essentially made this whole place as a trap. I didn't have any anti-pirate software on my Xbox One console, so I leaned in to try to simply unplug myself, but he pointed at me and said, "Not so fast." I stopped and asked, "What do you mean?" He answered, "I know about your real self." I gasped. That's when my hacker theory felt validated. I really put myself in a sinking shithole by coming here. There's no way out now. I sighed and said, "What do you want?" He smiled even bigger and replied, "I want you to know the truth." I got a puzzled look. Truth? Truth about what? Since I could tell he could see me in real life, he knew how to elaborate. I am creating my own world here, free from Bethesda's lies and greed. I want you to spread the word about it. I want you to liberate others from their grasp. I was still confused. Why me, I asked. He chuckled and explained, "You have a high friendship base and a clean record. I have to remain here under Bethesda's radar to avoid my utopia from being destroyed as well as me. You on the other hand can remain in the light without getting burned." I decided to agree on it, but I wanted to see more of his work in terms of his landscape since he only managed to make the munitions factory. So he quickly showed off his skills provided by the modified red workspace below. He had this to be how the world can be modified to suit everyone's needs, not just his own, so people didn't have to wait years for a patch. With just one move, he swiftly changed the black landscape into a reflected copy of the Fallout 76 map. I say reflected since clearly the factory was now at the bottom left of the world instead of the top right, and the words and logos on the billboards were all inverted. He said he would fix it in time, but he wanted to show me the more original stuff he's done. He teleported some miles away and gestured me with the emote for it, but I said I would want to go down the normal way as in the stairs, so he seemed cool with it. I went inside and quickly got to work on the workspace he left behind. You see, the workspace was only still in his control since he was on the building contesting it, but since he chose to leave, now it had its power. If it could make a copy of the map and beyond, surely it could lift the barrier between these worlds. I got on it, quickly lifted the barrier and ran my way to it. However, I suddenly slowed down as I heard him shout, "Stop." Turns out my fusion core has now been depleted, and he hacked my weapons to be like 500 pounds or something. So I was forced to ditch all of that and run with just the clothes off my character's back. He teleported behind me and tried to chase after me since most of his hacker tools were gone. But just when I hopped onto the original Fallout 76 map, I quickly reintroduced the barrier to stop him dead in his tracks. I then set my sights on the workspace and had it delete itself, meaning now he couldn't come here after me. Relieved my character and my information was finally saved, I quickly exited the game and turned off my console to finally sleep, hoping to get this stress off of me. It was a shame I lost all my stuff that I got from day one of Fallout 76, but at least I managed to outsmart the Predator without any hacking skills of my own. So today I activated my account to see if I still get in the game, and I did. But I also saw I got a message from someone with a scrambled username. Reading it, it simply said, "You got lucky. Next time, you won't." So to all current and future players of Fallout 76, never under any circumstances go to the top right of the map or anywhere beyond it. You might just get caught into the strings of the Puppet Man.
Fallout 2's Toxic Caves is similar to the Puppet Man creepypasta, as this story is one of Fallout 2's only decent creepypastas and is one of the only creepypastas to exist regarding the top-down style Fallout games. Like the first layer, this story is one of the originals as it came out way back in 2012 and has gone relatively unknown throughout the years. So with that being said, here's the story. In Fallout 2, after you beat the game, you can continue playing. Remember that defunct vault near the beginning? The one with the toxic sludge on the ground in the elevator where you killed golden geckos? It's called Toxic Caves on the world map, but it's clearly a very small vault with 3 levels, including the first cave level where you take a ladder down to the actual vault structure. Well, if you have one of the original pressings of the game and you have not patched it, you can return to the Toxic Caves after the game is over, and if you have the item Heart Pills from the West End Murder Quest, you can kill yourself in the elevator. After the usual death scene plays, the screen will stay black without the menu screen popping up. After several minutes, you'll begin to hear a hollow, echoey white noise cave sort of sound. The screen will slowly fade back in to find your character in a pile of that nasty biomass goo that was all around the master from the first game. Your character will stand up and the usual ambient soundtrack will start playing, but the white noise will still be there. Explore this level, but do not pick any locks. Those are extremely off limits, and the developers put some very nasty programming tricks into the code to protect their secrets. As you continue farther into the level, you will hear the white noise continue to increase in volume, and the ambient soundtrack you are so used to will exhibit strange artifacts. This may be because of the difficulty of playing 2 music tracks simultaneously in the Fallout engine, which wasn't designed to be able to do this. Passing locked door after locked door, you will come upon many of the characters you met earlier in the game. Oddly, you only find characters that died, or that would be reasonably expected to die after you last saw them. Like the official endings, the characters found varied depending on how you played the game. If you were the good guy and tried to solve problems without violence, you will only find a few bad guys and unfortunate victims here. But if you slaughtered every town, you will see hundreds of characters. Regardless of what you did earlier, none of the characters will speak to you or react to you in any way. They can't be pickpocketed, killed, pushed aside, or healed. If you tried to use first aid, doctor, or any healing items on them, the game will tell you in the text box. It's much too late for that, Chosen. It would appear that this area is purgatory or possibly hell, based on being populated entirely by dead characters. The final character standing just before the final door is always a player character model from the first Fallout. This is the only character you can interact with, and as you approach, the white noise reaches a crescendo and the ambient music abruptly cuts out. If you simply bypass them and open the door, the game will play the end credits once again, only with pictures of Hiroshima and Nagasaki victims in the background. This is obviously an extreme poor taste, and many have wondered why the creators would be so insensitive. When asked, they denied the existence of the sequence and called a hack that was never put in the game. After it ends, you are greeted with the typical game over screen and are booted at the desktop. If you talk to the final character, he will explain that he is in fact the Vault Dweller from the original game, your ancestor. He will tell you that he is disappointed in the way you turned out, and he will turn his back on you and your character will collapse into a pile of bones in a death animation that I've never seen in the game itself. Afterwards, the game will fade to white and lock up the computer, forcing a hard reset. There is a third option though. Those locked doors I mentioned earlier. This is one door, it's always random as to which door, but if you get lucky in picking, you can actually use any heavy explosive to blow it open. Inside you will find a single footlocker holding a 10mm pistol with no clip in the picture and no ammo in it. None of your normal 10mm ammo can be used. You can load the gun with an Easter egg found in the basement of New Reno Arms. Fire this into the head of the final character and the game will cut to an over-the-shoulder video showing a young man playing an unidentified Fallout-like game. Some people claim this is an early version of either Fallout Tactics or Van Buren, but nothing on the screen seems to fit either of those games. Also, neither of those games had even started development at the time of the original pressing of Fallout 2. The video itself is poorly lit with the apparent intention of it being creepy, but nothing spooky actually happens in the video. The man simply plays the unknown game and the video slowly fades into your desktop. Cool trick. I'm not really sure they managed a gradually translucent screen back then. Another strange trick is that, according to many players, the final character always matches the character they most recently played in Fallout 1. Both gender and their apparel at the end of the previous game are represented. At first, this would appear to be a save game hack, much like Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear Solid. But the trick works even if the original Fallout was played on a different computer without transferring any data to the new PC. It's recommended that you do not turn on any televisions in your house for several hours after experiencing this extra ending. You will quickly realize that the white noise in the game is identical to the white noise now coming from your television. Cable, satellite, and even antenna, if you still have that, are all somehow incapable of picking up a signal for some time after the secret ending. All internet connections, however, seem still to work. That's how I'm writing this to you now. The funny thing is, I turned my television back off nearly an hour ago, as well as my computer speakers, but I still hear the static getting louder.
Nate's Revenge is a Fallout 4 creepypasta which was released in 2017 and is the first Fallout 4 creepypasta to be featured in this video. There isn't really much I need to say about this story beforehand, so let's just jump right into it. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a week after mods were released for the Xbox and I was amazed. This was the first time I ever used mods. I was so happy, but what happens next almost ruined my life. My girlfriend never supported my gaming, but I loved her anyway, and one day I even got her to play Fallout 4 with me. The first thing I did was go to my mods to make sure they were on, but there was only one there. It was called Nate's Revenge. There wasn't a description, but I decided to see what it was. I started a new game and let my girlfriend create the characters while I made us popcorn. When I came back, Nora looked just like my girlfriend and Nate looked like me. She started the game as Nora and she played through the intro until you leave the vault. When she exited it, the screen went black and text appeared that said 3 years later. When the game loaded, we were now playing as Nate. We were both confused. I looked at the map and a quest marker, and we went to it, and the Nora we made was standing there holding Preston's hand. The screen went to third person, and then the camera moved, and now it looked like we were watching, not playing. As Nate walked towards the two, he ripped apart his own face to reveal he was a synth. Nora screamed and Preston stood in shock. My girlfriend grabbed my hand and squeezed tightly. I looked over at her and noticed she was shaking badly, as she never really liked violent stuff and was scared easily. I then heard a hideous screech come from my TV, and when I looked at it, I saw Nate rip Preston's throat out. The camera zoomed in to show it, and my girlfriend started to cry as Nate twisted his head towards Nora. He just started beating her. I knew this hurt my girlfriend hard because before she went out with me, she was in an abusive relationship. Nate kept beating Nora, and eventually she stopped moving. He kept beating her and the screen began to fade to black. Text popped up and asked, "Would you like to continue?" I clicked no and the game crashed. After that, I turned the Xbox off. When I went to hug my girlfriend, she pushed me away and asked me why I showed her that. When I told her I didn't know, she didn't believe me. 3 days later, she broke up with me. The day after that, I opened my dresser and pulled out the ring I planned on giving her when I proposed. Tears began to go down my face as I squeezed the ring. I put the ring up and walked over to my Xbox and loaded the game my girlfriend started. "Would you like to continue?" I clicked yes. The end. Oh my god, that one was okay.
Point Lookout is the first story for Layer 3, and as we continue to move further down into the iceberg, stories will really begin to show their pros and cons, with a great example being Fallout 3's Point Lookout. This story has both positive and negative feedback regarding the writing, ending, and story itself generally. But with this story being made all the way back in 2011, I think, for its age, it could be worse, but I'll let you decide. So it was past midnight. My brother and I were checking out the new DLC for Fallout 3 called Point Lookout. It had just been released at the time. He was the one playing and I was on the bed next to the computer observing. If you're at all familiar with this DLC, you know there's a mission in which you are sent to retrieve a very special book for an old man living in one of the mansions on Point Lookout. The book was called the Krivbekni, and later on, you find out that it supposedly has some kind of dark power and needs to be destroyed. You can either give it back to the man or destroy it by taking the book to the Dunwich building in the Capital Wasteland. As my brother is interested in occult stuff, he found this quest really interesting. Before doing anything more with the quest, he went on Fallout Wiki and looked up all the info we could on the book and what would happen after. I thought it was stupid of him to get everything spoiled, considering he found it such an interesting quest, but he said he somehow felt some kind of greater importance to it. After shooting through the ritual site, killing all of the swamp folk there, he decided to destroy the book, which forced him to go back to the Capital Wasteland, the original game world. At this point, he didn't have enough caps to buy another riverboat ticket, so he killed Panada, a trader in Point Lookout, at the docks, and took all of her caps. I found this very strange as my brother isn't playing as a bad character and would always do the moral and right thing, wanting good karma. But not this time. After coming back to the riverboat docks in the capital wasteland, he began making his way towards the Dunwich building. Girder Shade, the place where you get the Nuka-Cola challenge, was the closest location discovered, so he went there, only to realize that the place was deserted. The 2 people that used to live in the little town had vanished. We thought it must have been a game bug as my brother had never killed them, so we ignored it and moved on. Finally, he arrived. He went through the levels pretty quick, witnessed the hallucinations and the self-opening doors. We weren't really scared by any of that because we knew it was going to be there. He got to the underchambers and placed the book on the creepy-looking altar, and it somehow completed the mission by destroying the book. At this point, my brother figured it would be a good time to head to Rivet City to sell some of the stuff he had gotten from Dunwich. Guess what though? Not a single person could be found there. At this point, we got really freaked out. We checked the other settlements, Megaton, the Citadel, Tenpenny Tower, and all of them were empty. We restarted the game and reloaded, but nothing helped. We figured we could go back to Point Lookout and see if there was anyone left there. The only problem was that Tobar, the guy who owns the boat, wasn't around anymore either, so we couldn't buy a ticket. When my brother was about to leave the boat again, he was attacked by the very same people missing from all of the settlements. It must have been over 100 people just charging the boat, throwing grenades, shooting missiles, wanting my brother dead. He didn't really have anything that could kill the people at once, so we thought it was a good idea if he went into the little cabin on the boat and wait for them to come. That did not work out as we planned. They didn't run in. Instead, someone with a fat man launched a mini nuke into the cabin, completely blowing my brother into pieces. Right after that, the game froze and we had to restart it. Now, everything was fine. No one attacked us and everyone was exactly where they were supposed to be.
Now, even though this story isn't just a Fallout creepypasta, I believe that the Bethesda cult still fits into this iceberg, as it still primarily revolves around the Fallout franchise, particularly Fallout 4. So again, let's not waste much time and let's just read the story. There I was, sweating in my uncomfortable seat, surrounded by the sounds of obnoxious unsynchronized clapping. Todd Howard had just made his usual appearance on the annual E3 Gaming Expo stage. The crowd was anxious, awaiting their anticipated announcements, ready to possibly be disappointed. Myself, I wasn't at the expo enduring the claustrophobic mania for some video games. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good RPG every once in a while, but that wasn't my intentions on the day in question. I was focused on Howard's body language, the glare in his eyes, looking for any subtle off movements, even his choice of dialogue. There's been something bugging me for some time now that I have a firm and dedicated belief for. Todd and the company of Bethesda are in fact part of a secret cult. I know how crazy it sounds, but please just hear me out. Allow me to take you back to the traumatizing experience that started all of this. Orange, red, yellow. The leaves brought an offset of color to an otherwise gloomy autumn day. The season also happened to be the prefix to the disc that was held in my hands, Fallout 4. I was a little late at having my try at the game, as I picked it up around November of last year. Still, I was pretty excited to give it a go. It had gained a lot of popularity after all. With my game in my PS4 console, I recall myself sitting on my bed for hours on end. I was fully absorbed into the wasteland-filled virtual environment, forgetting about the spilled cup of cola on the floor next to my feet and the fallen slice of pizza on my bedsheets. The real world around me was ultimately non-existent. It wasn't until my controller died that reality peeked through again. I, however, only used this moment of clarity to freak out and quickly plug in the charging cable between my system and my controller. I had to hurry and jump back into the Fallout universe. This is where I felt like I was worth something. This is where I didn't feel alone. Fallout 4 was a game where I could build, fight, and help people in need. The settlement crafting system pulled me in, allowing me to create houses out of resources I worked so hard for. Enemies that got in my way I would fend off, using practical weapons I made myself. On quest, I found mutants and irritated hostiles, the likes of which led me to great achievements. These accolades made me feel great and wanted in this made-up reality. Finally, something made life livable that didn't happen to be prescription or recreational drugs. My virtual ecstasy, however, came to an abrupt halt. I began noticing some things out of the ordinary, even for a game of fantasy. I'd come up on these electric terminals in the game and notice some patterns. Whether I was in a shopping mart, a library, or a museum, the same word would pop up on the terminals, along with the rest of the text. I never really noticed until I saw it appear even in multiples on some of the screens. The word that struck my attention was end. Most wouldn't bat an eye at this. I mean, the game is set in a post-apocalyptic world, so the word end is rather fitting. For one reason or another, it didn't feel fitting to me at all. I see this word pop up all the time throughout my life. Everyone has that magic number that seems to follow them everywhere they go, whether it be lucky number 7 or unlucky 13. Well, mine is the word end. I see it inside gas stations, grocery stores, the daily newspaper, even on cereal boxes. The word is constantly being thrown at me. As soon as I started noticing this, I decided to look at one more terminal in the game. I came across one that was fairly easy to get to. There wasn't much disturbance, just some destroyed cars and no enemies in sight. This terminal didn't seem unusual at first, with the same common words lit up on the screen of the monitor. Then something obstructed the screen. The entire thing filled up with my least favorite word, typed over and over. It sped up gradually, eventually to the point that my eyes couldn't keep up. I was wildly confused, wondering if this was part of the video game. It was then I turned off the game, not caring about where I was or when I last saved my progress. I was far too spooked to continue. Later that evening, I shared the experience with one of my close friends while hanging out at his house. I told him I finally gave the game a shot and mentioned what happening, hoping he wouldn't judge me and perhaps would know what I was talking about. My questions, to my dismay, were not answered. I've put hundreds of hours in the Fallout 4, and that isn't anything I've witnessed in my playthroughs, he stated. This led me to believe that I had simply played the game for so long that it had taken a toll on my mental state. Somehow, this theory just made me feel worse. Walking back home that day, my phone kept ringing from all sorts of numbers, all of which I assumed were telemarketers, considering I didn't recognize the numbers. I ignored them for a while, but there was one I decided to finally answer. Hello? I questioned in a cautious tone. Hey, this is GameStop. Your copy of Fallout 4 you ordered has arrived from the warehouse. You can come by and pick it up anytime. We're open until 9 PM today. Thank you? I responded in a confused fashion. I started answering more calls, my cell phone being bombarded with one new number after another. Perplexed would be an understatement of which to describe my mind at that point in time. Each phone call was from a different GameStop, at least a dozen or so from across the country, calling to tell me I had a copy of Fallout 4 ready for pickup. At this point, I was more frustrated than confused. I assumed my friend was playing some sort of prank at my expense. I eventually began blocking the numbers as they came in. Despite knowing where the calls were more than likely coming from, something about the ordeal wasn't sitting well with me. To make matters worse, something far more peculiar happened upon opening the door to my home. I didn't walk through the doorway. No, not in the slightest. As soon as the front door opened, I found myself sitting on my bed, controller in hand, looking directly at my TV screen. It's tough for me to explain, but it felt as if I never left the house. The game itself was still running, stopped right where I left off. The word end plastered across the terminal screen and yet again multiplied rapidly. I shot up from my bed and unplugged both my television and PlayStation. I looked up and even noticed something. Everything in the room was just how I left it, but the walls, they were undoubtedly different. The word end surrounded the perimeter of my bedroom, written in all different colors and sizes. At first, I was outraged, wondering who had broken into my home and vandalized my room. I thought it might have been my friend, pulling out all the stops to severely spook me. If so, it was working. This explanation fell flat when I realized that the word painted across my room was written in my own handwriting. But hold on, how does this make any sense? A harmless glitch, hallucinations, and writing on the walls, what does that mean? Well, at this point, I wasn't sure, but I knew I had to get to the bottom of it. So without a better plan in mind, I decided to go directly to the source, Todd Howard himself. And this is what brought me to the room of E3, waiting for the presentation to be over. I grew anxious sitting there, hoping I could speak with Mr. Howard. I didn't know what he'd say or if he'd even believe me, but I was a slave to my own wishful thinking. Perhaps he could explain all my worries away and put my mind at ease once and for all. Unfortunately for me, my issues couldn't be fixed with the patch or update. My heart racing, there finally came a time everyone left their seats. My legs were shaking, but that was mostly from sitting for such a long period of time. Just as I was about to stumble through the exit and head backstage, a man grabbed me by my arm and pulled me aside. It was none other than Todd Howard himself, in answer to my prayers. "About time, sir, we've been expecting you," he exclaimed. "You have?" Of course, I've been waiting for you to get the hint, to finally come join us. Just please don't tell anyone, he replied. Join you for what? I'm gathering a number of people to help us at Bethesda to start a doomsday plan. I'm not at liberty to say why you or any of the others were chosen, but I can tell you that we are using Fallout as a net to capture those that can be of use to us. It also foreshadows what the world will look like in the near future. That's if, of course, you and the others are willing to join us. We can't do it all on our own. What would happen, hypothetically speaking, if I don't join? Well, you're free to do whatever you like, but the end has already begun. If you don't help us, someone will take your place, and I just know that you'll regret it. The clock is ticking. Mr. Howard handed me a business card, upon which was the text, "Pre-register for your spot on the end list today," along with a 1-800 number. I took the card and went back to my hotel room to get some rest and process everything. It had been a nice way to relax and hopefully cope with the strange events occurring in my life. I would soon find that relaxation was nowhere within reach. Entering my room, anger and distortion came over me. The TV in the hotel room was lit up with a copy of Fallout 4 playing. It was stuck on the same screen with the word "end" typed all over it, just as it was back on that November day. As if this wasn't enough, my phone rang, though this time a number I recognized. "Hey Dad, what's up?" I answered with, as I normally did when my father called. "Hey, I'm sorry to bother you during your trip, but I have some upsetting news to share with you. Your brother, he just passed away moments ago." "Wait, what? How?" I shouted out of shock and despair. I was never really close to my brother, with him always being away at war and whatnot. It sounds horrible, but it felt like he was more of a distant relative than a sibling. Even still, my heart sunk. The nurses aren't completely certain, but they claim radiation poisoning was at fault. I find that questionable because no bombs have been dropped near his location. They're going to do further analysis in the coming week to let us know. I'll be back in town as soon as possible. Please keep me updated if any other information comes up. I'm not sure how to handle this. I was just talking to him a couple days ago, I let out, along with a single tear of pure grief. "I will, son. This is just as hard for me, and I'll be devastated for as long as the world lasts." He'll be looking down at us, smiling. At least he's in a better place. My father said this in a tone of hurt and heartache. He then changed the subject, probably to lighten the mood a bit, something he awkwardly did to avoid dealing with more serious issues. "Hey, by the way, I have a piece of mail I found stuck in my door tonight. Pretty odd for a Sunday. It has my name on it, but I think it's for you. It says something about a Fallout 76 beta invitation, and has the word "end" written all over it. Do you want it?" I hung up on my own father. I'm not sure why or how I found myself in this ongoing nightmare, but it feels like I'm trapped in my own apocalypse. Take these words however you'd like, believe what you want, but Bethesda is not a game company. Todd Howard is up to something, and this is the start of the end.
Here's another Fallout 4 creepypasta, Pikmin's Blade. This is about the side mission including Pikmin's Gallery, and if you know anything about this side mission, you probably already know what the story is based on. So, to not spoil it anymore, let's go on ahead and read it. I'm a big Fallout 4 fan. I love the game to death, no pun intended, but I've always felt an eeriness in the game, from when I'm cave diving into old vaults or walking in the back streets of Diamond City. Playing a game like this at 3 AM is always a little unsettling. I recently changed my gaming consoles from Xbox One to the Xbox One S. Please, I don't need the PS idiots ragging on me right now, so hold it in and listen. If you don't know, when you transfer your account to the next console, you don't only have to transfer the games, you have to sync them too right after to get all your saves. It took all night. When it finished, it was about 4 or 5 in the morning. I'd stayed up all night watching YouTube. I was so happy when it finished syncing. I started playing right away. When I loaded up the save file that I was currently playing on my last console, I got in and, well, there was some weird stuff to say at the least. Nothing too serious though, probably just some stuff that didn't transfer over properly. The walls of my house and sanctuary were gone, just leaving various paintings, etc. floating in the air. I really didn't care at the time, I just wanted to move on. I usually joined the Brotherhood of Steel faction, so the police station was my next destination. I had played through the missions until I could progress no further. From this point, I needed to find Virgil in the glowing sea. The glowing sea was different. Instead of the greenish, yellowish that usually illuminated the glowing sea, it was more purple. I shrugged it off as just another glitch. so I continued with the mission. When I talked to Virgil, his dialogue was exactly the same, except when the main dialogue was done, he said something that caught me a little off guard. Be careful and keep your wits about you. Find the knife. Okay, whatever that means. Maybe the previous DLC had changed some of the dialogue. I don't know why he said, find the knife. Maybe it'll appear later as a new part of the game or something? I don't know. The rest of the game was just fine. Why did they change this one part of the dialogue? I fast traveled to the CIT ruins and picked up the cursor signal. When I entered the building where the signal led to, it was pitch black. It was understandable because of the errors that had happened prior, so it was just another glitch. My headlamp light worked fine, so I just continued. I went through some of the level until I got to the main hallways, and the voice over the loudspeaker was getting slower and slower. Okay, I thought. Something has to be wrong. I can't just keep shrugging these off as glitches. I kept wandering in the dark. Then I heard it. The most dreaded noise I could hear in my certain character build. My character exited his power armor without me making him, and the armor just walked away. Now I had nothing but my dim Pip-Boy to illuminate about 2 feet ahead of me. I had made my character completely useless without his power armor. I knew I could make it through though. I had been through worse. Then when my survival instincts died down and I started to think about logic, what the hell just happened? My power armor just kicked me out of it and left? How? Then, suddenly, I started getting attacked from the front by a melee attacker. I killed him and instantly went to loot his body. The first thing I saw was the Pikmin's blade. For anyone who doesn't know, you can obtain this weapon after completing a side mission where you rescue someone from some crazy people. At least that's what it seems to you at first. It's revealed to you later on that the man you saved killed those people's family members that you just killed, and painted paintings with their blood. True fact. He awards you with the Pikmin's blade. It adds 25% bleeding damage. I wonder why. But back to the story. What was this gunner doing with the Pikmin's blade? This was starting to creep me out. I took the knife. I progressed through the level until I reached the cursor. All he said was hello, and the option to use his deactivation code you get from Mama Murphy back at the sanctuary. He said nothing, no reaction. I used my 10mm pistol, then my shotgun, and then everything else, but there was not a point of damage. Until I used the Pikmin's blade. He died instantly. But then my console turned off. I went back into the game and everything was back to normal. Except I still had the blade. It was no longer the Pikmin's blade though, simply named 2210. It was a Bible verse, specifically the one from Genesis. The verse was, "Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son." I'm pretty freaked out. The rest of the game was fine, but the knife, I still have it. I just never use it. I'm scared to use it. I don't want to go through that again.
Diary of a Deadman is one of the more unique stories in this video, for a couple of reasons. But the main reason is because the original story has been deleted, and all that remains are just YouTube videos of people reading the story out loud. So I had to transcribe the story in order to make it readable. So if any mistakes are present in this entry, I do apologize, as that is the reason. But anyways, let's get into the story. October 22nd, 2077. Yet another typical day. Get up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to sleep, repeat. It's a dual life, it really is. The war is still big news. Looks like we're driving the Chinese back. Did they really think they could take the American mainland? Damn commies fooling themselves. The new power armor they made is really giving us an edge. We're cutting straight through them. They don't have a chance. The war will be over in no time. The new Nuka-Cola Quantum comes out tomorrow. Can't wait to get my hands on some of that. If it's anything like the quartz that Nuka put out not too long ago, I'll be hooked in no time. October 23rd, 2077. It has happened. By God, it finally happened. I never believed it would. New York is in ruins, everything is burning. I ignored the sirens. I thought it was just another drill, but they threw everything they had. The Robco factory came down on top of me. I'm trapped under here. I can't feel my legs. I think I'm going to die down here. I'd rather have gone in the explosion. I wouldn't have felt a thing, just gone. Now I'm going to die of dehydration. God damn it. I could see outside through a little crack in the rubble. It's hell out there. Most people have just been incinerated. Others look like they're melting. Your skin just... I can't even describe it. I can hear some of my workmates around me. I can hear Minnie screaming until a few minutes ago. She must be dead now. I never told her how I felt. There are other people around me too. Some moaning in pain, others weeping. Some must be in absolute agony judging by the sounds they're making. Such awful wailing. Why am I even recording this? I don't know if anyone will be able to read it. No, I mustn't think like that. Some people must have made it to the vaults or taken shelter on the ground. Gunshots. I just heard gunshots. People are shooting each other now. We're completely fucked. And instead of helping each other, we're just killing each other. What the fuck is wrong with us? How could we do this? I'm just so tired. I could barely keep my eyes open. October 24th, 2077. I am going to die soon. I could feel it. At least it's faster than dehydration. The fires are closer now. I can feel the heat even under all this rubble. Luckily, I think I'll be dead by the time it reaches me. I hope so. There are still gunshots and wailing and terror and pain, but it's silent around me now. I must be the last survivor under this rubble. God, I hope we haven't wiped ourselves out. To anyone that survives this, no matter how far in the future, I am so sorry. It's our greed and lust for power that did this to the world. People like me, we're just normal people trying to make a living, to feed our families, just living day to day. It's the people at the top. They want more money, more power, more. My name is... Should I say my name was Simon Benson. I was just a man. I worked hard. I only wanted to live. There were so many people like me. If you find this 200 years from now, when the vaults are open and the world is livable again, I wish you best. And I hope we haven't made the world too hard of a place for you to live in, to raise your families. And please, don't repeat our mistakes.
Fallout 3 Hunted is the first story of the final layer of this iceberg, and is arguably one of the longest stories featured in this video, and one of the best in this layer, as the rest of the stories are, well, you'll see when we get to them. But first, let's get into this creepypasta. Hey there, my name is Jason, and I'm 23 years old. I'm writing this because, well, let's just say it really makes one think about morality, even in video games. It was 2 years after the release of Fallout 3. By this point in time, I had modded the game all to hell and essentially had a lot going on in the game, from superpowered weapons and high-tech armor to new NPCs and buildings. I've been doing this for a while and decided to make an evil character this time, with the Killable Children mod installed and all essential NPCs turned off. I could essentially travel anywhere and slaughter anybody I pleased, with little repercussions. Sure, the regulators would make an appearance every once in a while to tell me what a bastard I was, and how I will pay for my crimes. You know, the usual crap you hear spewed from their craws, like it means a bloody thing. I loved it though. Sometimes I would try to get the drop on the regulators with a sniper rifle or a mini nuke launcher. I was the hunter in this game. Raiders, regulators, children, shopkeepers, you name it. I've hunted and killed it. Sometimes I felt it was a little boring, so I would handicap myself from time to time to keep it interesting. You know, take on some Deathclaws and Enclave soldiers with only a melee weapon and no armor. Something to that effect. Anyways, it was another Sunday afternoon and I had nothing else to do. I decided to go up to Girder Shade and kill off Ronald and Sierra and nick all their caps for shits and giggles. I loaded up a shotgun, an assault rifle, a sniper rifle, a combat knife, and I wore the Chinese stealth suit. I decided that'd be far more than enough to thoroughly obliterate these two. I used the fast travel to go outside of Girder Shade. As I approached the boundaries of the small shanty town, I felt like there was an NPC over by some dead trees and rocks off in the distance. I figured it was probably nothing, and even if it was an NPC, it would probably just be a trader or some random encounter or something. I continued on and entered Girder Shade, killing Ronald and Sierra and stealing some Nuka-Cola stuff I figured I could sell later. I exited Sierra's house and looked over to where I saw the NPC. The NPC was no longer there, so I decided to wander over there anyways to see if there was still something nearby, as if it hadn't taken me very long to turn Girder Shade into a Nuka-Cola ghost town. I saw nobody there and was about to turn around when suddenly a notification popped up on the screen. It said, "As you turn away, you notice a small note on the ground. The note says simply 3 words. Come to Dunwich." I closed the prompt and I sat in my chair and thought what that could have been. I figured it must have been an old quest mod I had installed previously and figured it might be fun. Essentially more people or ghouls to hunt down. I decided to head on over to the Dunwich building and see what this was all about. As I approached, I decided to play it a little bit safe, as if this was a quest mod. I didn't know what enemies would be lurking around, so I took out my sniper rifle and studied the surroundings. It all looked pretty normal. No NPCs wandering around, no enemies of any sort actually. I put my sniper rifle away and decided to use my shotgun as it was close quarters in there, and it made the most sense. I opened the door and entered the building. It all looked pretty normal at this point. No new ambiance, music, NPCs, it was all just the same. I started to wander through the building, prepping myself for an encounter with the enemies in here, mostly feral ghouls. I decided to crouch into stealth mode and wander around to hunt them. As I got further and further into the building, I noticed something. There were no enemies at all. Nothing. I exited stealth mode and looked around the rooms one by one. There was nothing. I mean, all the stuff was still here, but no ghouls. I began to wonder if this was part of the mod, that I would run into a new kind of enemy or there'd be tons of enemies deeper into the building. I started to go deeper down when suddenly I heard a very faint whispering coming from down the hall, and in a room with a closed door. This was probably part of the mod, so I figured it could be a horror mod or something. I enjoyed the thought of that, so I walked down the hall, readying my shotgun. I got outside the door and I opened it to find nothing. There was nothing here. I sat hunched in my chair, scratching my head, wondering what the hell that was about. As I started to walk into the room, I quickly stopped and looked down. There on the ground was a barely visible tripwire. This tripwire was different from the others normally found in the game. It looked like a fishing wire, damn near transparent. If I hadn't been alert and paying attention, I would have tripped this wire. I knelt down and safely disabled the trap. I walked around the corner to see what it would have set off, and my heart stopped. It was a nuke, like the one in Megaton. I walked up to it and a prompt came up saying, there was a note attached to the bomb. It said, "Well, you survived the first trap. Kudos. Can you keep going, I wonder?" I stared at the prompt for a while. What in the bloody hell kind of mod was this? It was unique, I'd give it that, but I hadn't seen a mod use a nuke like this before. I simply shrugged it off as a really overzealous modder and continued on my way. As I got down into the depths of the Dunwich building, I had found something that was a little comforting. It was one of the notes from the scientist turned ghoul. I picked it up and listened to it, as it was familiar enough to keep me going. It played out as normal until I noticed that, even after the message was supposed to have ended, there were still 15 seconds left on the tape. I wondered how the hell someone could have modded this when suddenly, the tape played the same whispering I had heard previously from the room upstairs. I kept going for 8 seconds and then stopped. When there was only 3 seconds left, the tape suddenly let out this loud, piercing scream, like someone being attacked. I damn near fell out of my chair. After the tape stopped, I got pissed. Really? A jump scare? That's the best they came up with? Amateurs. I was just about to leave the room when suddenly, outside the door and down the hall, I heard footsteps. They were slow but loud and echoed, and they were slowly getting closer. I aimed my shotgun at the door, waiting for whoever or whatever was outside to open the door and attack. I figured this was it, the boss of the quest or some shit, but nothing happened. There was no red blip on the compass, nothing opened the door. There was just a shadow outside the door, standing there. Said nothing. I stared at the door for what felt like hours, even though it was probably just a couple of seconds. What the hell was this? Who could code the AI in a mod this good? I decided that I would try something else. I still had some mines I had picked up and then decided to use them. I planted them in front of the door. I entered stealth mode and I opened the door to find nothing. There was nothing there at all. I started to get furious. What the hell kind of troll quest mod was this? Nothing had happened. All that's happened so far was someone messing with me, and I was getting pretty damn sick of it. At this point, I just decided to leave. I went back to the building, was about to reach the exit when suddenly, I heard footsteps. Except this time, they weren't slow. They were fast. Something was bolting towards me at a rate I didn't think NPCs could move in this game. I heard the mines in the one room go off and the footsteps didn't stop. They just got louder and louder, as whatever it was got closer. I decided to bail and wait outside with my sniper rifle instead, and catch him by surprise. I ran outside of the building and I stood there watching on the hill, waiting for this guy to come out so he could get shot in the face repeatedly. I watched, but nothing. I sighed. This was stupid. I gave up and decided to fast travel back to Tenpenny Tower. I went inside and there was nobody there. There were no guards, no people, nothing. I was confused. Did my game severely glitch out or something? Why was all this crap happening? I decided to let my character go upstairs. I would save it and figure it out later. I went up to my suite and entered the room. It was dark. Very dark. I turned on my Pip-Boy light and there was a trail of a dark liquid on the ground leading to the modded parlor. I took out my shotgun and decided to see what the hell this was and why my game was so screwed up. I walked into the parlor and my mouth fell wide open. On the wall, scrawled in blood, was one word: Hunter. I saw the heads of every single corpse of animal sprawled on the floor. I started to back out of the room when I heard a slight creak behind me. I spun around and I saw an NPC. It was me. The actual me. Except he was paler, with darker hair and cold, soulless eyes. He stabbed my character in the gut with a knife, immediately taking my health from full to 0. As my character gurgled and thrashed and collapsed in a heap, he looked dead into my character's eyes, as if he was looking at me and said, "How does it feel being the hunted? To know how they felt, right before you entered their existence, like they were nothing. This is only a warning. Next time, I come to hunt you." The game suddenly crashed back to desktop. I stared in silence at my computer monitor before walking over to my fridge, grabbing the whiskey, and drinking myself stupid until I passed out. From that day forward, I have never played a game as an evil character again. I always do the good and right thing. I am always helpful and only fight against those who are themselves evil. And every time I think of crossing that line and being evil, even for a second, I swear, outside my door in the hallway, I can hear footsteps, walking just outside, waiting for me to slip up.
Now, words cannot explain how amazing how amazing this creepypasta is, as Vault 13 is probably one of my favorites throughout this entire video. So, since I cannot contain my excitement, let's just jump right into it. Vault Dweller, go out, shoot under moonlight. They stop at a side of road. He turn to his dog and say, "Puppy, I love you very much." Woof. Our highwayman is broke down. I think the engine is broken. I walk and get some more fuel cells. Okay, I stay here and look after our pit boy. There have been news report of Pee Boy being stolen. Good idea. Keep door locked no matter what. I love you, doggy. So the guy left to get cool for the car. After 2 hours, the dog think, "Where my Voot Dweller? He was supposed to be back by now." Then the dog hear a scratching sound and a voice say, "Gary." The dog doesn't let in, and then after a while, she goes to sleep. The next morning, he wakes up and find Vault Dweller still not there. He go out and check Vault 13, was kill. I was at NCR eating Fancy Lad when phone ring. Vault 13 is kill. No. Amazing story. Best story of the whole list. Best one right here.
Now, even though nothing will probably beat the last story, an experience with New Vegas is completely different, as this story is a complete 180 from the last, and is actually fairly normal. But the reason it's so low on the list is because of how obscure it's become over the past 15 years, and because it was created by the YouTuber Hoodoo Hoodlum's Revenge, which, for those of you who don't know, is a YouTuber who primarily covers creepypasta-related topics, and was very popular 10 years ago. But let's go ahead and get into the story. I love mods for Fallout New Vegas. Some are good, some are well made, and some are just small yet neat. Then there are the ones that are just weird. There was once a mod that changed Boone's face so he had a constant smile. Funny, but kind of pointless if you ask me. I was on Nexus one day and found a mod that caught my eye. It was called Breathing, and the description stated it was a mod that made the player able to sprint for a limited time, much like in Skyrim. I thought this would be very helpful because at times it could be pretty frustrating when your character walked so slow and you needed to get somewhere far away. There were no screenshots, which I thought was kind of suspicious. Bad mods usually had no screenshots, since the maker put little effort into making the mod look professional. But I thought to myself, if it was bad, I'd just delete it and move on. So I downloaded the mod. It was a RAR file. I extracted it and the folder contained the mod and 2 pictures. The first one shocked me since it was a picture of Jeff the Killer. I jumped a little, but realized shortly after it was probably a joke. The other picture seemed to be a corrupt image of red and some text. At the far right corner, you could make out letters forming the sentence, "C is you." I thought it was another joke and copy-pasted the mod files into New Vegas' mod folder. I then started up New Vegas. I resumed my game and spawned in the strip. I assumed the sprint button was shift, so I pressed it and held it as I walked forward. Nothing happened. I was a little disappointed, but tried shift again. This time, I glitched through the floor like I was no-clipping and fell. I was about to pause the game and delete the mod when I stopped falling. I was now under the strip, and had taken no fall damage as I hit the ground. The ground was rocky, like in the Mojave Wasteland. I tried moving my mouse, but my character's head wouldn't move. I was looking straight forward. Slowly, I could hear a sound. It sounded like heavy breathing. It was loud on bass and sounded pretty spooky. It started off as barely noticeable. It grew louder until I could hear it perfectly. It sounded as if it was behind me and I was wearing headphones. My character then turned around as if I was engaging an NPC conversation. You know, when the camera awkwardly zooms in on the NPC's face. I turned around and for a split second I saw someone standing behind me. Then the game shut off. I was confused and a little paranoid, so I checked behind myself and of course there was nothing there. I must have been reading too many scary stories. The mod was still in my New Vegas folder, but I decided to delete it since I didn't want to have to repeat the creepy process every time I mistakenly pressed shift again. The mod circled around the web for like 2 months, but disappeared later. I still don't understand why I heard that breathing and who that person behind me was. And from the look of it, I think I won't get any answers.
Takahashi.exe is the final story in this video, and of course, just like how I did in my GTA Creepypasta Iceberg, I had to include an EXE story in this video, as they are the staple of creepypasta stories. Again, I don't really want to spoil too much, but if you enjoyed Vault 13, you will really enjoy this story. So finally, let's get into the last story of this iceberg. I've always been an avid fan of playing video games. You see, they let me get away from reality, go into a fantasy world where I'm not some weird kid who plays video games all day. I've always enjoyed post-apocalyptic themes though, more than anything else. Sure, Dungeons and Dragons are cool, but they're not for me. It started after I graduated. Over the summer, I struggled to keep a job, so I was basically stress-free for now. So I took to playing as much as I could before adulthood caught up with me. Now, I couldn't afford a PC, so I was stuck using my old and dingy PS4. I played through most of the Fallout games several times, but there was one I hadn't revisited in years, Fallout 4. My last disc got damaged, so I had to look for one elsewhere because I like to have physical copies. I went to my local GameStop expecting there to be nothing, but to my surprise, there was. Sitting in the used games bin was one of those replacement cases GameStop uses that has nothing but white and a title on it, and it read Fallout 4. I was overjoyed, you know. I grabbed a couple more games before paying at the register. As soon as I got back home, I booted up my PS4 and opened the Fallout 4 disc, but a piece of paper fell out alongside it. I picked it up and began to read through it. If you are reading this, this is your last chance to turn back. The game included in this case should not be played. Burn it for your sake. And of course, I shrugged it off. In hindsight, I shouldn't have done that. I placed the disc into my PlayStation and it downloaded nearly instantaneously. Weird, I thought to myself, but yet again I shrugged it off as a sign of something being amiss and booted up Fallout 4. My childhood memories flooded back in as the main menu music kicked in. I tried to start a new game, but the button wasn't responding. I restarted and reinstalled the game several times, and as I was just about to give up, I decided to check the saved games. There were a couple, some old ones I probably made when I first had the game, but a certain one stuck out. It just had my name on it. Nothing else, no playtime, location name, or images. Curiosity got the best in me, and I clicked the file. Everything looked fine as I loaded in, spawning right in front of Vault 111. I took in the scenery and controls as I made my way to Sanctuary Hills, noticing that the sound of my character's footsteps was delayed. I searched through Sanctuary expecting to find Codsworth, but I found nothing but dust. I brushed it off as one of those classic Bethesda moments, expecting that he would probably get stuck on a rock or just spawn in later down the line. I continued cluelessly, making my way in the Concord to help out the "Another Settlement Needs Your Help" guy. I faintly remember the quests. I knew I had to fight some raiders and was ready to do that, but Concord was empty, lifeless. I moved through Concord a bit freaked out, hoping that maybe Preston had got the raiders and their bodies just despawned. I entered the Museum of Freedom, hoping to continue the questline, but yet again, there was no sound of fighting, no enemies, or anything. But as I walked through the museum, I found it littered with raider bodies. Like a good loot goblin, I took everything they owned. I was freaked out, but I kept telling myself it was just another classic Bethesda thing. Nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. I opened the door into the room Preston is usually in, and Preston was there, but he wasn't normal. Bloodshot eyes and blood covered him, and as I approached, he began to scream. The noise was loud, distorted, and persistent. I couldn't bear it, and as soon as I was about to shut off the PlayStation, the game crashed. What the hell was that? The thoughts moved through my head as I wondered if what just happened was real. As I sat there just letting everything that happened sink in, the game booted itself up again. This time the main menu was mute, silent, lacking its iconic music. I tried to close the game, but it wouldn't let me, forcing me to press continue. The game loaded in, and it wasn't where I was before. I was inside of Diamond City, the sky blood red as I saw little to no activity within the settlement, and as I moved down the steps, my timbers shivered. There were no other NPCs around, but a Protectron in the middle. I cautiously walked on over, interacting with it. Takahashi, the name read. It spoke. I didn't understand what this means, but the only dialogue choices I could give were noodle. I clicked one, and the merchant menu popped up. I read over it in shock as I realized each of the items in Takahashi's inventory had the name of one of the companions you could get in the game. I tried to click out of the menu without buying anything, but the game wouldn't let me. I chose one randomly, ending up having to buy some Piper. As soon as the menu went away, I opened my Pip-Boy inspecting this item. To my horror, it was a pot of noodle soup. However, its ingredients were just wrong. Human body parts littered the pot, and the soup within it was a deep shade of red. I closed my Pip-Boy, finding that Takahashi was nowhere to be found, but his voice line was repeating over and over again, overwhelming the game's ambience. At this moment, I finally took the initiative to disconnect my PlayStation from. I couldn't believe what I just saw. This couldn't be real, it just couldn't. My breath was fast as I just sat there staring at the blank TV screen, trying to think of what I should do next, but then the TV flickered on. This shouldn't be possible, I yelled as images of Takahashi making noodles out of human parts flashed onto the screen. I looked away horrified, wishing for it to go away, so much so that I threw the closest thing to me, my controller, towards the TV, shattering it. Was it over? Was it finally over? I thought to myself as I looked at the broken TV, breathing a sigh of relief. I froze yet again as I heard. I slowly cranked my head behind me, dread washing over me. As in the doorway, there was a Protectron. That thing. It's Takahashi thing from the Diamond City. Blood covering its metal casing and a knife in its hand. At that moment, I knew there was nothing I could do. Yeah, some of these stories could have been way better, and a lot of these kind of sucked ass, and the grammar was all over the place, and I did my best to try and fix it, but some stories were just really bad. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and on screen right now is a couple of my other videos, such as my FNAF Creepypasta and GTA Creepypasta Iceberg videos, which are basically the exact same as this one. Oh, and one last thing, make sure to go subscribe to Dr. Creepypasta, as he helped a majority of this video be made, and obviously helped to collaborate and record a bunch of segments, which allowed this video to be made way quicker than if it was just me. So thank you, and make sure to go subscribe to him.